The Gemini goes to Michelle Thrush.
A few months ago, Michelle Thrush won a Gemini Award for her portrayal of a troubled alcoholic on Blackstone. That's APTN's gritty drama about corruption, desperation, and redemption on a fictional Alberta reserve.
I want that prick to see it every time he drives by in his fancy truck.
People were not surprised, as it is a full-force performance fueled by people that were all too lifelike to her, people like her parents. You know, when Michelle was growing up in Calgary, she avoided going home so she wouldn't have to see her mom and dad getting drunk. It wasn't until she won a small part in a high school play that she discovered a place to escape to. And with a little encouragement from a friend's uncle, the late great actor and activist Gordon Tusis, Michelle found her feet in Calgary's theater scene and in the movies. She even shared the screen with Johnny Depp in the cult favorite Dead Man. Now you're about to see a lot more of her, as well as Blackstone. Michelle appears in the new series Arctic Air right here on CBC.
My daughter's getting married, Bobby.
I know, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Mwah.
Don't be late.
But she hasn't forgotten where she's come from. Michelle works with groups like the Dreamcatcher Foundation to mentor Aboriginal youth in drama and the arts, and to teach them something she knows firsthand, that no matter how rough life can be, you can make your own second act.
Please welcome Michelle Thrush. Nice to see you. Nice, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great.
Nice to see you. I was at the Geminis when you won. You know, when people win and they go on stage and they say they're surprised, I'm not sure if you believe them, but you looked genuinely surprised. Like, there was this moment when they said your name, and you're just like...
I know.
There was this panic all of a sudden.
I seriously was not expecting. We were up against some of the most amazing actresses in Canada. I was up against my co-star, and it was the last thing I expected to do.
It's pretty, at times, raw.
Yeah, extremely raw.
It's like the Canadian and the First Nations version of The Wire, in a sense, that it's painting a really raw image of what life could be like.
Yeah.
How important is it to stay true to real stories?
Blackstone touches a lot of amazing things that normally the general Canadian public wouldn't know about. This year we're looking at a lot of the water issues in our communities. There's over 100 communities right now in Canada that do not have adequate water. And so, I mean, these are things that normally people don't talk about. And as you said, this whole community thing that's coming up with the crisis up north is, it's opening up doors for us to start really talking about what is going on in this country and why.
I mean, art is always, it needs to entertain, but it's really special when art can actually illuminate, right? And it's a big responsibility. Did you get any negative response from telling the stories you told from within the community from season one? We
did. We got a little bit. There's you know, people out there who don't want to see. It's like pulling a wound off of, or a Band-Aid off a wound, you know? It's like if we keep covering that wound up, you know, it'll go away, but it's not going away.
I know your show, when it debuts, I think the day before on CBC, Arctic Air debuts, and I've spoken to Adam Beach about that, and he's talked about how it's the time. It's the time to tell this story and to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually playing Adam's sister on Arctic Air, and we've been having a lot of fun. But no, it is. It's a very interesting time right now with the crisis that's going on. I think it's important that people begin in Canada, that, you know, we begin to talk about issues, right? There's so much lack of information out there, and, you know, the true history of this land, you know, like right now we are on Mohawk territory. And I think that's, you know, something that people just, there's a huge gap between what is going on in the Canadian person's mind right now and what's actually happening in the grassroots.
You're an award-winning actress, you're a very talented actress, and you've had lots of experience, but it is impossible for a woman of Aboriginal descent in this country to be on television and not in some way be political. Like, you were always going to have to answer those conversations. Perhaps it's because Blackstone covers the issues, but even if it didn't, people would talk to you as if you were the representative of them all.
Exactly.
Do you feel that?
Yeah, no, I totally feel that.
How do you feel about it, though?
Well, I think that, you know, being born brown in this country, you have no choice. Like you said, you know, it's a very political time. I have 2 little girls, and they are my whole life, and everything I do is about raising them to be prepared for this world, educating them. And I just think that as, you know, an Indigenous woman, first of all, it's important for us to have, you know, to be able to speak our truth. But I also want, you know, people in Canada to know that we are human beings. You know, that everything we do is not about spirituality and culture, even though it's an important part of who we are. I think it's important that people know that I would love to do more scripts that have absolutely nothing to do with Indians.
Yeah.
Where I'm just an actual human being who is out there.
The stereotypes, I'm sure the stuff you have to deal with is at times completely overwhelming.
It is, yeah, that's true.
How do you explain it to your kids?
How do I explain that to my kids? I don't even bring that up, I think that my girls have got a really good foundation in who they are. They ceremony. We've been into Buddhist temples. I try and expose them to as much culture as possible. I'm hoping that the road is a little bit smoother for our next generation. I do a lot of work with children and youth.
When you speak to the youth, what are you hearing?
We've got some really powerful youth coming up, like Wab Kaneo and, all these people that are doing stuff, to create the solutions. But there's a lot of, youth out there that just are disconnected, and they live off of the culture of television, right, and of videos and stuff. And I think the important thing to remember is I always go into communities and I say, not only do you have, an incredible amount of culture behind you and, thousands of years of storytelling and all these powerful things, you also have the ability to walk in this non-native world, and that gives you twice as much, because you understand both ways. And that's a lot about who I am. I'm able to walk in the non-native culture very comfortably, but I'm able to go back home and, just kick it and be with my friends and family and, be very comfortable there too. Are
you getting more and more opportunities now post-Gemini? Are you hearing more options? Are there things that you can do?
So I got this script in mind, I just want to share this with you. I got this really great script, and I'm thinking, it's a love story, right? And it's about, the only thing about it is the lead female is Cree, right? And she falls in love with this Greek guy, and I want to call it my big fat Cree wedding.
I know a Greek guy. That's fantastic.
I'm teasing
No,
you.
it's okay. Listen, too bad. We've already sold it. It's
Good,
already being made.
Good.
In your own story, so you grew up in Calgary, right?
Yes, I did.
And you, like a lot of people, regardless of your background, you had a difficult childhood.
I did.
I did. And you battled a lot of the stuff, as it relates to your parents. How did you not follow down the same path, involving with alcoholism and other stuff?
As a child, I didn't have, anyone taking care of me to the point, brushing my hair before I even went to school, stuff like that. I grew up taking care of myself, making sure I was, able to get up and get to school and all that. And I remember being really ridiculed a lot in school because, my hair was always a mess and my clothes didn't match and, all this stuff. And I remember, there was like one teacher that came up to me and looked at me and said, you know what, you're a special child, you're really beautiful. I took that inside of me and it just stayed in there, and I held on to that with all my heart, because I knew that there was things that either I could go down this road of drinking and drugging and doing the things that led to where, so many people I know were, or I could go down the road of, just trying to make change. So I wanted to be a social worker when I went to high school. I wanted to, make some kind of a change. And then I found the arts, through Gordon Tusis, actually, who was somebody who became this huge, huge mentor in my life. And he's the one that said, if you have this passion to tell our stories, then you need to go forward with that. And at that point in history, back in the 80s when I was a teen, there were not a lot of Aboriginal people on television, so I never thought it could happen. And it was Gordon that really instilled that in me, that, it doesn't matter, you do what you need to do.
And it's a big week for that and for Michelle as well, both of shows, so you watch this. So Blackstone Season 2 begins January 11th on APTN. The day before Arctic Air premieres January 10th right here on CBC. Michelle Thrush, everybody.